This is new. So I call myself Jonah 'cause my bed's become the belly of a whale. Swallowed and not by blankets in the space that we used to share. You kissed me on the driveway and told me to be strong, but it's been 57 days and you've been gone too long. Now I'm in another's arms. He says we'll spend the night, we'll swim together to the surface light. But he ain't you, and you ain't here. What's a girl to do when her heart succumbs to fear? You went away and left me here. The strong hands wipe away the tears. I know it might be selfish, it could break your heart in two, but you were selfish first, I was just following suit. For he ain't you, he ain't you, it's true, but you ain't here. He put his lips on mine and drank the sorrow straight from out my mouth. He whispers velvet on my ear and slips his hand beneath my blouse. My eyes are searchlights darting down to scan my phone. You said you'd call or text me, but you've left me all alone. I could give away myself, but my heart is overseas. Oh, how I wish you'd bring it home to me. For he ain't you, and you ain't here. What's a girl to do when her heart succumbs to fear? You went away and left me here. The strong hands wipe away the tears. I know it might be selfish, it could break your heart in two, but you were selfish first, I was just following suit. For he ain't you, he ain't you, it's true, but you ain't here. Well, I never thought beyond the surface and what I might find there. Now I'm just a woman drowning in gulps of guilty air. My bed's become a life raft that sprung 1,000 leagues. Oh, how I wish you'd bring it home to me. For he ain't you, and you ain't here. What's a girl to do when her heart succumbs to fear? You went away and left me here. The strong hands wipe away the tears. I know that I was selfish and I broke your heart in two, but you broke mine first, I was just following suit. For he ain't you, it's true, and you ain't here. You ain't here, baby, you ain't here. You ain't here. So I call myself Jonah 'cause my bed's become the belly of a whale. Swallowed a night by blankets in the space that we will never share. Again, 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 again. Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, hi. Wow, it's so amazing. It's absolutely amazing to be here tonight and to share this evening with all of you. 20 years ago, I was sitting where you all are, and I came to the Gateway Playhouse for the first time with no intention other than to support my friends who had come to play at an open mic. And there was a rickety old piano here on the stage, and a catalytic angel friend of mine wrote my name down on the sign-up sheet and forced me up on stage. And I had never played my original music for anyone. I was absolutely terrified to do that. But I played my original music for the first time, and it was like coming home to a home I had never known was mine before. So I can say now, I haven't been to the Gateway in 20 years, and now it's absolutely amazing to be able to say that I've come back home. And it's amazing to share this experience with all of you, so thank you so much for being here. This next song deals with the concept of competing forces of faith and fear. And despite the fact that I am a performer, which would infer that I'm a pretty confident person, I was actually a pretty terrified little kid and afraid of my own shadow. And it was a lifelong journey to get to the point that I'm at today. But I think that all of us were afraid of fear. We live in fear, thinking that if we give into fear, we can hide in the shadows. And this song kind of explores whether or not that's true and what we risk when we avoid stepping into the light. This is called Black Wings. Black wings are better than white. They fade into the dark of night, and no one can tell if you are falling. No one can tell if you're in flight. You used to say I was your light, but now I've traded in my stainless wings of white. I guess that's the price for being free. I'm the dark angel of your memory. Yeah. See my wingspan and all that lies beneath. Now see my arm still bleeding red with life and heat. Black wings aren't better than white. They stand out starkly in the light, and everyone knows that you're just falling. Everyone knows you're not in flight. Thank you. right, this is a fun little short little song that I wrote about a little love affair I had in Italy with a man named Dario Caruso, who was every bit as scrumptious as his name sounds. I am thunderstruck by the sight of you. Ooh, baby, what is a girl to do? 'Cause every time that you pull me near, I'm lit by line and flashes appear. Ooh, get some better luck, 'cause I am thunderstruck. When you touch, you make me cool, baby, just like a dove would do. 'Cause every time that your eyes meet mine, I'm lit by light and flashes divine. Ooh, get some out of luck, 'cause I am thunderstruck. So scoot on over to me, my sweet renewable resource of electricity. I've got some data that I need to find. Can't wait till your body's sparks are surging with mine. I am thunderstruck by the sight of you. Ooh, baby, what is a girl to do? 'Cause every time that you pull me near, I'm lit by line of flashes appear. Ooh, get some out of luck, 'cause I am thunderstruck by the sight of you. Ooh, when you touch, you make me cool, baby, just like a dove would do. 'Cause every time that your eyes meet mine, I'm lit by line of flashes divine. Ooh, get some out of luck, 'cause I'm thunderstruck, yeah. Thank you so much. I've actually been writing poetry my whole life, and it took me a long time to realize that I was actually a poet first and a songwriter second. But this is actually the first time that I'll be performing my poetry, which I thought would be really fitting to come back to the Gateway to do so. Anyone out there ever tried dating after 30? It's easy though, you know, it's like riding a bike, except the bike's on fire, and the ground's on fire, and everything is on fire because you're in hell. No, actually, my sister and I have an ongoing joke that dating after 30 is like going into the deep discounted rack at TJ Maxx. You know, nothing really fits exactly. Everything's kind of like half a size too small or too big. It's last season. There's like a coffee stain that someone didn't realize when they returned it, but you kind of squeeze yourself into it because it's on sale and you walk out looking like a hot mess. But in all seriousness, it's very difficult. And a lot of my friends that are of my age have given up altogether on dating. It's very easy to do. But, you know, the heart is an amazing regenerative muscle. And I think, you know, the poetry that I wrote when I was very young, at the age of 9 or 10 years old, I go back and I read it sometimes when I want to reconnect with myself because I had such an open heart. And I think it's my daily challenge to reconnect with that person and stay open. So this poem I'm going to perform for all of you now was written at a time where I thought maybe my heart was closed for the last time, but reopened when I fell again in love. It's called Gunshot of Joy. Fiercely alone and content to be so, I made my hands my strength, squeezing them into fists of coal and hanging them at my hips like two dark reapers so they could fuel every step that I took in self-defense. Squeezing with such force that they became like diamonds. Squeezing with such force that I could feel crushed, shimmering white sand running down the inside of my coat sleeve as I raised them to touch your gentle expression, your perfect, honest face that I could not resist. You wondered if stone could really ever caress flesh, and I wondered if after all these years I could really ever let go again. Your skin already blushing at the approach of these two wrecking balls, like a flower welcoming the hand that would pluck it, only to kill it with pure adoration. My fists gave way to open hands, gave way to fingers moving freely, to a gunshot of joy, to a bursting dam of butterflies that fluttered around us like rice tossed at a wedding, and we covered our heads in laughter, and we held hands like we both might run. But they settled on our shoulders, giving us such relief that the nail marks in these once clenched hands wept with relief. To the cupping of your perfect face, to the pulling of my mouth into yours, as you kissed me in an empty, cold casino parking lot, turning November into June, making everything all at once brand new. Thank you. All right, so this is a song that I wrote some, I guess 15 years ago. A lot of people ask me, how I write a song, and there's obviously lots of different ways that artists write songs, but I have a method, and that is that I sit down, I write the whole thing top to bottom, and I don't ever go back and revise it. It just comes out. I think the song already exists, and it's my job just to say it. And this songs are usually written and inspired by one moment, one flash. So this song was written by on a first date. The gentleman and I thought it was a good idea to go to the Atlantic City beach in February. I don't know why we thought that. Maybe because it was really warm earlier in the day, and then it dropped like 30 degrees at night, and it had rained. And it had dropped so quickly that the rain hadn't had time to evaporate. So when we walked onto the beach, it was as if the beach was a sand lake, frozen. Not a footprint, not a little divot where the wind had picked it up, nothing, just a sand lake. And as we walked, our feet sort of sunk into the sand and crunched. I looked back and saw only our footprints, the only markings in the snow. And it was from that one moment that this song was born. This is called Bright Winter. The sand is no friend to footprints made firm by the hardness of white ice and snow, with no footpath to follow. It's almost like ours are the first to dare tread where others won't go. That's lit by his light, and though the sun is lost in trust in our side of earth, her warmth is not missed, 'cause there's heat exchanged when lips press in a kiss. I've heard once in a blue moon is a reference for something few people see. And yet here before me are two moons, pale blue in their orbit, around my mind's eye when falling to sleep. That's lit by his light. Could he be the flame to my fire, a mug of hot cider brought to my mouth, the thing that warms you from the inside out? A city skyline glows before my eyes, a stunning view that frames the night sky. But its buzz is not as bright as this incandescent light we emit as our bodies soar in temperature. January turns to June once more. winter's night that's lit by his light. And though the sun is lost in trust in our side of earth, her warmth is not missed, 'cause there's heat exchanged when lips press, invades the darkness and bathes me in a brightness of bliss. Thank you. This next song was inspired by my favorite instrument, which actually is not the piano, it's the cello. I always wanted to be a cellist. But actually, string players, it's very hard on the fingers. So maybe someday I'll be a cellist. But this song was inspired by the shape of the cello, which reminded me of the female form. It's called Cello Curves. Put your hands on my cello curves, bow my strings, hear them sing, untie my corset nerves, undo my body's drawstrings. Nothing but pink dust drifting through the air, falling on our bodies like snow. I can feel the fire burning there, but you don't even seem to know that, baby, I've never been real good at harmony. I specialize in melodies so bittersweet and sad. So lay me down on a bed of notes that sing, and play my body like my beating heartstring. Put your hands on my cello curves, pull them close to you. Fear not the darker tones, they make sweet music too. I wanna scream out a symphony, I wanna orchestrate a song, I wanna write a smooth concerto on your body all night long. 'Cause baby, I've never been real good at harmony. I specialize in melodies so bittersweet and sad. So lay me down on a bed of notes that sing, and play my body like my beating heartstring. I feel the strings begin to swell. It's nothing but skin on skin. The drums pound, the trumpets blast, and all the world is pulled within four walls. One song and my cello curves rise to his. The smell of orchids fill the room. Baby, I've never been real good at harmony. I specialize in melodies so bittersweet and sad. So lay me down on a bed of notes that sing, and play my body like my beating heartstring. Oh yeah, play my body like my beating heart. Thank you very much. A woman and mother of 3 tells me in the checkout line at ShopRite while I try to buy one single bottle of fabric softener about the miracle of motherhood. She tells me that I cannot know, childless as I am, about the magnificence of my own body. She tells me that I will never know what it is to have a part of me living outside of me, or to be a co-creator with God. And as an artist, I can't help but think how odd it is to imply that I might be barred from the tree of knowledge, exiled from the process of creation simply because I never managed to breed. The irony is, I've spent my life circling through the process of birth and death. I've fallen pregnant countless times, with countless ideas, bursting at the seams, writhing in agony as I labored upon my writing, feeling my body expel and contract through these fingertips as I gave birth to something inside me. I want to say to her, you carried your little one inside you, but your little one belongs to the world. She belongs to me. I carry my art inside me, but my art belongs to the world. It belongs to you. But she's right. I will probably never have a baby. And maybe she's also right that I have breasts that I'll never use, not the way she tells me they were intended, while I try to buy one single bottle of fabric softener at the checkout line in ShopRite. Maybe I'll never feel fetal movement from within, but standing there just trying to buy my bottle of Downy Liquid Fresh, I find myself pregnant full term, with words I can't say to her. I would like to say to her, you know, there are things that you'll never feel moving inside you too. There is a potential in you that will never be actualized. Not the way this particular potential was intended. And I don't believe that the movement of longing within you to do and live and explore died the moment you got pregnant. Yet all the possibilities now of a particular sort of life that might have been lays like a dead dog at the foot of the crib where your beautiful little one sleeps, never to be resurrected. No, it's not a better life, mind you. It's just a different one. But maybe on your worst nights, it gnaws at you at night. Well, I'd like to tell her that I rock my worries to sleep at night too. That I carry a crib of my own in my chest, swaddling a little one that I never wanted quite enough to move to the top of my to-do list. I carry a vacant womb that I'm told by the world to fear. It's like a cathedral where no one worships. It holds nothing. It holds no one but empty pews and ancient prayers. It echoes a lineage of what might have been and smells of the distant incense of my female ancestors who burned frankincense on the funeral pyre of their own dreams, like I do in this crib of my own chest, this empty building of stone and longing, so fragrant and so quiet, that I'm told to fear. I'm told to hate, because it gives no life. But it does give life. I grab my change and my one bottle of fabric softener, and I try to flee. But before I can, she touches my shoulder and says, hey, you know, it's okay. You still have time. She says it to me like I'm dying, like I need to make a final wish. And I stand there thinking, you know, I could say the same thing to her. But I purse my lips and I walk away, knowing that later I will labor feverishly upon the words of our exchange, and I will be pregnant with so much emotion, and I will enter yet another dark theater to deliver them. To deliver them. I will deliver them, and I will give birth again. All right, so how's everybody doing? Good. All right, so I got myself involved in a relationship when I was very young that was the most passionate relationship of my life. It was also extremely explosive and extremely toxic, and it lasted a very long time, way longer than it should have. And in the very end of its days, we were having a fight, and I called our relationship explosive, and he said, something I'll never forget, he said, "Explosive is good, you know? You need explosives to see fireworks. You need explosives to light up the sky." And I thought that night about what he said. And he's right, you know. You do need a spark to light up the sky. You do need explosives to see fireworks. But you also need a spark to ignite gunpowder. And it was an interesting thought for me on the concept of passion and how it's really a dangerous thing. Because on the one hand, it can light up the sky. And on the other hand, it can ignite a weapon that can destroy you or destroy someone else. So this song discusses the concept of the two, and it's called Pyrotechnics or Gunfire. They formed him from charcoal and sulfur blend sweet. They said she could smell him for miles. His dark powder rose from his breath when he'd sleep. She'd watch him with eyes growing wondrously wild, saying, "Oh love, we detonate when we meet. So how will we choose to light up the sky? Will it be pyrotechnics or deadly gunfire?" Eyes were like flint, glassy and green. Her body was built like a fuse. And when his dark mouth was on her, the sparks could be seen. Combustion released and her willpower diffused, saying, "Oh love, we detonate when we meet. So how will we choose to light up the sky? Will it be pyrotechnics, deadly gunfire?" A lit fuse, a reaction ensues, and we're suddenly firing cannons for words. How can it be so damn passionately that we love and we hate, we ignite and we detonate? As legend would have it, a soul's cut in two before it is born in this world. And so it continues, the match seeks its spark, the song seeks its listener, and the night seeks the dark, saying, "Oh love, we detonate when we meet. So how will we choose to light up the sky? Will it be pyrotechnics? Will it be pyrotechnics or deadly gunfire? Thank you so much. So when I was 23 years old, I did what most young artists do living on the East Coast, and I moved to New York City, and in my mind, this is how I saw it going. I moved to New York, start selling out theaters within about 3 months, get my first Grammy in 6 months, start starring in movies around 8 months, buy my first mansion around 12 months. What actually ended up transpiring was lugging my giant keyboard in the subway in February in the snow, living in a room that was exactly 8 feet wide by 12 feet high, and sleeping with gloves and mittens because my window was broken, and eating $4 tuna from a can. So I lasted about 6 months before I came back to good old Jersey. But in that time, I had a roommate, and this song was born from an experience that she went through. It was actually a very sad story, but she found herself pregnant by the manager of a very famous band from the 90s. And I watched her go through the decision-making process of whether to terminate the pregnancy or not, and in the end she did. And I wrote this song about that. And I always tell people when I play the song that it's not a political song, and it's really not about whether she should or shouldn't have had the abortion. The song is about the fact that the gentleman, the man, was definitely not a gentleman, convinced her that if she had the abortion, they could have a real shot at being together. And he made all the arrangements. He picked her up in a limo, and after she went through with it, he never spoke to her again. And it completely leveled her, and leveled me in proxy, because I saw it coming a mile away, but she wouldn't listen to me. So this song is about that story, and about her. It's called The Mark. She held to an answer before the questions were asked. The future was wounded by a knife of the past. And a full moon hung heavy in the ice there above her, like the full womb inside her that marked her a mother. And she came to me like a glass figurine, fragile and filtering a light unseen, saying, kind friend, could you help me remove the mark of a loveless lover? And I said, no, I'm sorry. What's done I can't undo, but I can stay with you. He made the arrangements before the damage was real. His half-hearted solace held the warmth of steel. And a half moon above her hid her reasons and fears. Confusion took over and gave way to tears. And she came to me, curled up on the bed, like the curve of a question mark inside her head, saying, kind friend, can you help me remove the mark of a loveless lover? And I said, no, I'm sorry. What's done I can't undo, but I can wait with you. A short walk to a long car ride, to a clinic on the upper side. His hand on her knee like a parasite. The smell of pine on the city streets where Christmas trees lay on icy sheets that won't let her feet grip the ground. Not a sound was heard except the words, I'm ready. She held her decision fast-burning match. Like a car driving 90, seeking out a wall in which to crash. A new moon was blinding on the ceiling above her, a wattage so savage her eyelids would flutter. Nothing could keep them close to what they'd seen. Then she came to me, a hollow casualty, with eyes like a cavern in the Dead Sea, saying, kind friend, could you help me remove the mark of a day like no other? And I said, no, I'm sorry. It's done, I can't undo, but I can cry with you. I can cry with you. I can cry with you. Thank you so much. All right, so I always smirk a little when I play this song because I remember one particular moment that inspired it, and it was in a conversation with a boyfriend I had who told me that I think too much. He would always say when we were arguing that I think too much. And one time he said it to me, and I said, you know, the problem is I'm already thinking about the fact that I think too much. And I said, it's a lost cause. And this song was born from that. But the idea behind the song is that you can't think your way out of love. You have to feel it. And the concept, the name of the song is Thinking Never Furthered Love. All I do is feel my way. That's the only way, he says, to live life. He tells me that I think too much, but I'm already thinking on that thought. How fitting that our love would be testing time on the dying night of 2009. So take my hand, hold it tight, and I'll love you madly. Breathe in me such breath that my thoughts are lost to us. 'Cause thinking never furthered love. Thinking never furthered love. Now we know the depth of this. Now we feel the ice, the emptiness. Now we're searching through the trash, seeking Cupid's arrow in this mess. Maybe we can never rewrite the end, but I would stop the world for a chance again. So take my hand, hold it tight, and I'll love you madly. Breathe in me such breath that my arms are lost to us. 'Cause thinking never furthered love. Thinking never furthered love. What do we know? Baby, tell me, what do we know? What do we know of love? Only what we feel, only what our hearts tell us is real. A beating heart gives life to love. So take my hand and hold it tight, and I'll love you madly. Breathe in me such breath that my thoughts are lost to us. 'Cause thinking never furthered love. Thinking never furthered love. Thinking never furthered love. Thank you so much. So I have another poem I'm going to recite for all of you, and there's a little story that goes with the poem, and then after that we're going to take a little break, and during the break I have some merchandise for sale, and if you are interested in purchasing anything, it goes to a really great cause, and that cause is me. No, but seriously, there's lots of great stuff out there. And also in your programs, there's a little card that gives you the chance to sign up for my mailing list if you ever want to come see something like this again. And I do have my first book of poetry coming out in 2020, so I'll let you know if you want to know about that as well. This last poem I'm gonna recite for all of you in this first set has a little backstory. And that goes like this. I'm very blessed that I've been able to work as a professional musician since I was 18 years old. And that really is a beautiful thing, because even though I never bought my mansion and won Grammys, there's lots of people I know that wish that they could make a living playing music. And I really owe that to my father, who also, I know many in the audience know my father, and he is a jazz musician, and he got me my start. So when I was about 20 years old, he called me and said that the Forum Lounge at Caesars Casino was looking for a new musician, and he had talked me up. And the big selling points, of course, was that I was female, which is a rare thing to have a female singing Sinatra, and I was 20. The problem was I didn't know any Sinatra. In fact, I could only play 5 songs at that time by heart. But I like a challenge, so my father said, if you can learn 6 sets of music, the job is from 6 to midnight. If you can learn 6 sets of music in 3 weeks, you can have the job. So in 3 weeks, I basically lived, breathed, ate, slept the piano, and I learned 6 sets of music. I didn't know any of the songs they wanted, all the old standards and Rat Pack and Sinatra and Dean Martin and so on and so forth. And I got the job at the Forum Lounge at Caesars. It was a very interesting job. Of all the jobs I've ever played in my life, very interesting, because the clientele was mostly male and mostly 2 to 3 times my age. And you can imagine there were many unsavory events that took place. Some were just funny, some were unsavory, and some were pleasant. But I worked that job for a very long time. And this poem that I'm going to recite for all of you is one that I wrote when I was thinking about that job that I took at 20. And how I really wasn't a very good performer. And I only knew 6 sets of music, but I made some crazy tips because I was 20. And then I thought to myself, you know, I'm twice, 3, 4 times the performer I was at 20, and I bet you at 55 or 60, I'll be 2, 3 times the performer I am today, and I'll know 2 to 3 times the music that I know now. But the sad reality is that if I want to play those listening rooms at 55 or 60 years old, I'm going to have a very difficult time getting hired. Because as a female performer, the audience in these rooms oftentimes listen with their eyes. And it can be really depressing when you've given your whole life to a craft. So this poem that I wrote it sort of is like my way of fighting back against that notion. And really, it's not just female performers, it's females in general. Females are told that as they grow older, they have nothing to say. They're told that they're on their way out. But the truth is that as we get older, we only have more to say, and it's a lie. I know that a woman standing in her fire in the prime of her life, or the summer of her life, if you will, has more to say than ever before. So I wrote this poem to sort of fight back, I guess, against that notion. I should also mention that I worked that job at Caesars Casino for many years until management came to me and said, "We want you to wear sequins and feathers in your hair." But I knew from my father that you have to do what the job entails. So I wore sequins and I wore feathers, and I kept the job till they came to me again and said, "We want to put a bass player and a guitar player with you." Okay, no problem. They brought in a great bass player and guitar player. They were excellent musicians. My first time playing with them, it went great. Kept the job. Came to me a third time. "We want the guitar player and bass player to wear togas." So they got rid of the really good guitar player and bass player, and they brought in two guys that couldn't play to save their life, but they were smoking good looking and naked from the waist up, so. And I kept the job. Until they came to me one final time and said, "We want you to wear a toga." And I said, "I'm out." And that was the end of my job at Forum Lounge, Caesars Casino. Okay. This is called My Sister Sequoia, and it's inspired by the mighty sequoia trees in the forest of Northern California. Fact: the giant sequoia tree is the largest living organism on Earth. She begins to bear cones at just the age of 12, but she remains green and closed until the age of 20. 12 to 20 are formative years. 12 to 20 should be an untouchable time for she and girls like me. I refer to her as she, by the way, because I've decided that sequoias are female. When I was 20 years old and dressed like a cannon of confetti in a high rollers lounge at Caesars Casino, I crooned torch songs in sequins and feathers to rich men, the kind of rich that makes you drink a lot, the kind of rich that seems to infect its host with unquenchable sadness. And one night, a man old enough to be my father offered me $5,000 to spread myself out like butter all over the cold, crusty toast of his body and the doughy bodies of his two sons as well, who sat with 6 orgiastic eyes across the table from me as they slid those 5 casino chips towards my very shaky fingers, thinking I'd melt on the spot. I didn't know then that I would never be so visible as I was in my plump, ripe, untouched flesh of 20 years. Green and closed, yet enduring the daily spray of bullets launched from lusty car windows, pulling at my buds and branches at the back of buses or in college parties. I wanted nothing more than to be invisible. Fact: when I was 30 years old, sitting at a bus station in Boston, waiting for my boyfriend, whom I'd been buttering for 5 years but never once melted for, a woman of 65 told me that I had better get married and get married quick, or risk becoming invisible. A woman's power, she said, is in her ability to be chosen. A woman's power, she said, is in her ability to make life. This is what keeps us visible. This is what keeps us seen. I sat on that bus in silence with my boyfriend's hand laying like a dead fish on my leg until we got home. Then I promptly left him, because dead fish and cold butter do not a marriage make, and to hell with visibility if that's what it would cost me. Fact: the mighty sequoia matures at just the age of 20, yet no one makes mention of her visibility at 35.
For every year that she lives, she becomes more astounding, more venerated by those who meet her. She takes up more space, not less, as she careens upwards towards the sky, and we arch our backs, mouths agape, eyes upwards, trying to find out where she ends and heaven begins. She is luminous. But as women, we're taught to live our lives in an obverse reality, squeezing the trunks of our strong thighs into skinny jeans and counting calories with an almost sacred reverence, trying to take up less space to increase our visibility. This is the madness of being female. See, I don't believe it's death we fear as women, but the magic act of stepping behind a curtain with every candle that adorns our cake as we're involuntarily drafted into the ritual disappearing act of the aging female. Fact. I knew at the age of 20, staring down at 5 plastic chips, that I had a power I didn't yet understand. I thought I wanted to be invisible, but what I really wanted was to be seen. And the wisdom of my late 30s tells me that being visible is not being seen, just like being listened to is not being heard. And it is indeed death I fear. For the day that I erase being seen for the chance to be visible is the day I choke my own neck with my own hands. Fact. These wrinkles budding on my face like blossoms don't need your Botox, and the gray hairs sprouting from my scalp don't need your dye. The shrinking Cupid's bow of my lip will not stop the propulsion of arrows that I sling as words of power from my chest, with breasts that hang with the gravity of years that I've faced with courage and grace. And let me tell you, my aim is far better than when I was 20. I can hit a bullseye blindfolded, so you had better step back. Fact. When I take a lover to my bed now, I am not just some slab of unmoving flesh, cold and waiting to be spread, wondering if I might melt under this one's hands. No. I ravish the bread. I'm the heat that turns it hard. I'm more than 3 decades of passion and suffering and laughter and grit and kindness and tears that turn the sheets beneath us an oven scarlet red. Fact. The oldest living sequoia is 3,500 years old, and she will never be unseen. I catch my reflection in the glass of a pond in the park on a warm day in spring, and I think about the next 10,000 years, and I smile. I may not stay visible, but I will never be unseen. For like my sister Sequoia, I'm growing taller, careening towards the heavens with every day I'm blessed to live. And I am luminous.
Is falling in my heart. Oh no, it shouldn't start for months, but the trees have all but turned. Chamber where we burned, and the frost hangs like dew in the summertime. We knew now snow is all we know. It's winter time. Is piling up outside. Oh, my heart pulls on its scarf and mittens, a tiny snow globe I hide. Within my chest it resides, and it's subject to a lover's shake where all the pieces rearrange with snow. Falling down to show me it's winter time. It's winter time. It's winter time. Thank you so much. So this next song is very near and dear to my heart and has such an unbelievable story that I have to tell all of it to you. Tell it to all of you. Something like that. So when I was 20 years old, some 17 years ago, right around this time of year, it was actually the eve of Christmas, my sister, who was a teenager at the time, came home and told my parents that she was working with a young girl at a beauty supply store who was going to spend Christmas in a shelter. And as is, typical of my parents' character, they said that she should come spend Christmas with us. And so I found myself at the mall on Christmas Eve trying to buy gifts for this little young girl who I had never even met before. And she ended up actually living with us for a year, and it was a very interesting colliding of worlds, because my parents are very conservative Christians who raised us a very specific way, and she was a young woman who had basically raised herself, very much a survivor. Her mother mentally ill, she didn't know her father, and she was like this wild raven who flew into our house and threw everything upside down. And it was really a colliding of worlds. So much, in fact, despite my parents' attempt to sort of raise her, the way they would have raised us, giving her bounds. And she was involved in all sorts of things that you would imagine someone in her circumstance would be involved in. And it didn't work, so she went back to live with her mother at the following Christmas. And I remember that Christmas, there was something missing in our house. And even though everything had settled back down and was so peaceful, and the raven had flown away, there was an emptiness, like something was missing. And I know when she went away that it really haunted my parents. They felt like they had failed, and all of us, she had touched all of us in such a beautiful way. And I thought I'd never hear from her again when I wrote this song. But believe it or not, many years later, we started getting letters from her, and we reconnected. And she and I became very close, like sisters, and over the years, we've stayed in touch. And it's absolutely unbelievable that I'm about to play this song and say to you all tonight that she's in the audience, that she did my makeup tonight in the dressing room. I could cry just thinking about it because she's grown into this absolutely, unbelievably warm, generous, strong, confident woman and was given so little in her life. I think of all that I was given and how little she was given just by the toss of the cards. And she's never let it jade her. She's never let it keep her from having an open, generous heart. So I really feel honored to play this for her tonight. This is called Michelle. came to us the eve of Christmas. Her eyes were stockings filled with coal, and with a smile built like a geyser, you never knew when it might blow. She took to darkness in the basement, music of pipes her lullaby. I guess it was the closest likeness to chaos on which she relied. Michelle, God knows you well, martyr to mistakes your mother made. Michelle, where are you now? You never stole a thing except my heart. Come January, her eyes darkened, a sadness sweet like a liquor rush permeated through the family. We came to love her soon enough. She'd take you in her lungs like incense, hold you there till you were warm. Then with a violent push she'd exhale, leave you where you started from. Michelle was bent for hell, a martyr to mistakes her father made. Michelle, where are you now? You never stole a thing except my heart. You kept cigarettes and opiates for friends, and a lover in her bed just for amusement. But for all the love we gave, you can't keep a wild thing caged. So when next winter came, she moved on again. I saw a black crow on my window, wings for flight as dark as hell. I thought of her too soon, a woman trapped in a broken child shell. Another cold, another Christmas, we gathered round the evergreen. A dirty light more bright than tinsel filtered down onto her seat. Michelle, where are you now? In retreating to your house, you left your home. Michelle, where are you now? Never stole a thing except my heart. Never stole a thing except my heart. Never stole a thing except my heart. She came to us the eve of Christmas. Her eyes were stockings filled with coal, and with a smile built like a geyser, you never knew when it might blow. Thank you. This poem's for my sister and brother. In 1998, my parents sold the house that we had lived in since I was 6 years old, to the Mission of the Sacred Heart across the street. Our house was sacrificed to the neuroses of a priest who stripped the carpet to lay down marble and faded floral wallpaper caressed by smudges of sticky peanut butter jelly fingers for gold. Sometimes I still drive down that street and I pause to hear the old house weeping. Sometimes I wonder if the family that lives there today knows that if you still yourself so quiet at night, you can hear that old house breathing. And sometimes I wonder if they ever found the secret attic that we sealed up,
where my brother and sister and I carved our stories into the ceiling, feeling the wood bend gently, wincing into our hands as we wrote, "This was our home," as if to hear the wood say back, "Yes, my God, I loved you 3." The priest, whose name I now cannot recall, tore down our beloved mulberry tree and every tree to plant small, identical trees exactly 2 feet apart all around the backyard. Those trees still stand like armed soldiers today, their branches still erect in permanent salute. In the place where we used to play and the grasses in our youth grew wild, our mulberry tree cradled us like a mother, kissing our feet each summer with her fallen berries in our nightly summer search for lightning bugs. Could the 3 of us ever be as holy as we were then? Was there ever a ritual more sacred or more pure than one birthed by the thought that a light could somehow be captured in dirty jars from dirty trash cans and be any brighter than that which already existed inside our laughter, our innocence, and our love? So I know it's not quite Christmas, or actually even Thanksgiving. But if Lowe's has all the Christmas decorations out, I can play a Christmas song. That seems fair. Anyway, last year I put out a Christmas album, and this was the first song that I had written in 5 years, and I wrote it in an hour. It just flowed right out of me, and it actually won the Great American Songwriting Contest in 2018. It's my little tooting of my own horn. It's called Evergreen, and it's the title of my 4th studio album.
Love is what is in the room when Christmas morning's in full bloom. When you seek to open gifts and simply pause to hear it. Love is patient, love is kind with all the faults. Love calls us mine, so keep the tree of love so bright the way you do this Christmas night, like an evergreen. Ooh, like an evergreen. The greatest power we've ever known, born of a manger, not a throne. A little child, a winter's night, a dirty stable and snow so white. Love is mercy, love knows pain. Love endures, it seeks no gain. So keep the tree of love alive inside your heart, growing wild like an evergreen. Ooh, like an evergreen. Love is the star that guides us home. Love is the carol on our lips. Love's the gift that heaven gives. Love is the shelter in the storm. Love is what is in the room when Christmas morning's in full bloom. When you seek to open gifts and simply pause to hear it. So take the tinsel off the tree, the ornaments, the holly, but leave the light of love inside. The Christmas soul remains alive like an evergreen. In you and me like an evergreen. Ooh, like an evergreen. Love is forever green. Thank you so much. All right, so this is one of my oldest songs that I'm playing tonight. I wrote this song when I was just 20 years old. And I wrote it actually in 20 minutes before I was performing my original music in a show for the first time at this little coffee shop in Cherry Hill. And the story goes like this. So I was running around all day trying to prepare, and my father, who's a jazz piano player, as I had said, and has worked in music his whole life, was going to be my roadie for the night. You know, he was going to set up all my equipment and do a sound check. I didn't know how to set up any of my equipment at the time. But all day long, my mother had been dropping hints about how wonderful my father was. And I couldn't figure out why she was doing this, but about, I don't know, an hour and a half before we were about to leave, she came up to me and she said, you know, you have such a wonderful father. And I'm 20, right? So I'm like, yeah, Mom, I know. And she says, no, I mean, he's really the best, you know? Like, I mean, he's so supportive of you. He loves you so much. And I'm running around. I'm like, yeah, Mom, he's great. He's wonderful. I love him so much. And she goes, no, I mean, for him to give up his 50th birthday, to go to your show and set up your equipment. So I find my father out in the garage loading my equipment into the car. And I say to him, Dad, Pop, why didn't you tell me that's your 50th birthday? I feel like I'm such a bad daughter. I forgot your birthday. We'll cancel the show. We need to go do something. You know, we'll go out to dinner. And I'll never forget what he said to me because it touched my heart so much. He said, you know, I'm 50 years old, and I've done a lot of things on my birthday, but I've never seen my daughter play her original music on my birthday, and that's what I want to do on my birthday. So then I felt really bad. And I went into the piano room, and I'm circling around going, okay, I'm the worst daughter ever. What am I going to do? I'm going to get him a card. What am I going to do? So I sat down, and this just flowed out of me in about 20 minutes, and I went and played it at that show. He was there. He did my sound equipment. Thinking back, you know, it was such a silly little show. There was like 5 people there. In the grand scheme of things, it meant nothing. But of all the shows I've ever played, it's the one that can bring me to tears when I think about it in one moment, because my father, all he wanted on his birthday was to be there in the audience, knowing that it was just me playing to 5 people in a coffee shop. And, of course, one of the lyrics in the song is, I wonder what my life will be like when I have half a century of my own. And now, of course, I'm much closer to that than I was when I wrote it. And I still have no idea what it's going to be like, but I know that the words of this song have never been more true than they were when I wrote them at 20. This is called Praise. Happy birthday, my father. What worthy words could I have to duly express all the love in my heart? I could only mention that 50 has never looked so wonderful as it does today. Now whatever happened to birthdays? They once held a magic all their own, where every candle held the promise of a year unknown, and we were just lost in the power of packages and inches newly grown. Now I know the things that you gave up, though I know you died before bringing them up. Just know that your life is a lesson to those who've seen it in motion, and I have more praise in my heart than a million fans ever could have round the globe. It's only a bright flash this lifetime, gone in a blink and then we're dust. But sometimes I feel like a child again, caught up in the fear of it, what my life will be when I have half a century of my own. So happy birthday, my father. What worthy words could I have to duly express all the love in my heart? I could only mention that 50 has never looked so promising. 50 has never looked so encouraging. 50 has never looked so wonderful as it does today. Thank you so much. So I have one more poem to perform for all of you tonight. And I saved it for the end because it's the one that's nearest and dearest to my heart. Even though I'm here performing for all of you tonight, and performing has been my life, in a very sort of strange, paradoxical sense, I've actually spent my entire life in an ongoing battle to reclaim my voice, which I have lost too many times to count. And this started when I was very young. I went to a tiny little Catholic school that had 28 kids, and the same 28 kids moved from first grade to eighth grade, so you can imagine wherever you fell in that hierarchy was basically decided at the age of 6. And me being quite the sheltered, naive, open-hearted little thing that I was basically bullied terribly from a very, very young age. And because of that, I struggled with finding my voice. I kind of learned very young that being silent was safe. But over the years, there were many micro-victories where I reclaimed my voice, and the micro-victories seemed to become bigger and bigger and bigger until finally it seems it's here to stay. Case in point is a nice story about a micro-victory that I had when I was in the 8th grade. One day, about 20 days before I was graduating 8th grade, and I would never see any of these humans again, I was in gym class, okay? Now, gym class basically went like this. We would all sit in the field. The coach would select captains. The captains would select teammates. And by this point, by 8th grade, I knew to bring a book of poetry because no one would select me for the team, and the coach would have to force me to be on one of the teams, and the team captains would argue that they had me last time. This day, we were playing tennis baseball. Have you ever played tennis baseball? It's ridiculous. It's baseball, but instead of playing with a regular bat and a ball, you play with a racket and a tennis ball. Why? I don't know. And
I'm standing okay, about to go up to the plate, and my grade school nemesis, we'll call her Kathy, the girl that has made my life living hell since I was 6, is standing directly behind me as I walk up to the plate and grab my tennis racket. She has already begun to heckle me, okay, before I even swing. She's complaining that I'm on her team. She's complaining that they're going to lose because of me. She had me last time. And as I stand there, I'm holding the tennis racket, a ball comes careening towards my face, which frankly, as an unathletic person, I think the only rational thing to do is duck, but I didn't do that. I have the tennis racket in hand. The ball comes towards my face. I swing. I miss. Behind me, I can hear Kathy starting. Oh my God, you again. 8 years of this. Every time you're on my team, we know we're going to lose. I can't believe you haven't figured out how to play tennis, baseball by now. It's not rocket surgery. Okay. I'm okay. Second ball comes towards my face. Got the tennis racket in hand. I swing. I miss. Oh my God, I don't understand. It's this giant racket and this teeny little ball, and you can't seem to make contact. Okay. Something happened to me in that moment that I don't really know how to explain except to say that all the rage of not just my 8 years, but every kid who was ever bullied in the entire history of humanity just started to bubble like an inferno in the base of my belly, and it came up like some kind of volcano about to erupt, except I couldn't say the words. So I grabbed that racket, and I waited for that ball. And when that ball came to me, I thought to myself, I will hit this racket or I will die now. And that ball came careening towards my face. I closed my eyes. I grabbed that racket. I swung, and I hit the ball. I threw the racket. I took off. I am a gazelle leaping in bounds from the first base to the second base. I am elegant. I have never been this happy in my entire life. There are no humans anywhere. I'm to third base. I get to third base, and suddenly I look around. And I think to myself, okay, I hit the ball. I know I hit the ball, but I know I didn't hit the ball into like outer space. Where are all the humans? I can't see any humans. I turn around. I look at home plate, and there's a crowd around home plate. And as I walk towards home plate, the crowds part like Moses in the Red Sea. And there is Kathy, laying unconscious. Because in my moment of victory, I have not thrown the racket, but cracked her in the head with my tennis racket before letting go, and then run the bases while everyone is crowded around her. I am running the bases. Needless to say, Kathy walked around with a goose egg bump on her head for the next week, and did not say one living word to me till graduation. Micro victory, indeed. Yes, there were many micro victories along the way. But I share that story honestly because, in all seriousness, it's a funny story, but in all seriousness, bullying is a horrible thing, and it really impacted my life. And I believe that those experiences I had in grade school, coupled with some other things, are the reason why I continued through my life to choose people who really were not good for me. Sort of that relationship over and over again, finally culminating in a very abusive relationship. And this poem describes my ability to finally break free of that. It's called Lilacs Always Bring Me Home. She punches the drywall beside my head. In a bathroom, cotton candy puke pink, under fluorescent lights that are perfectly savage for her interrogation. I palm a handful of lilac in my pocket, crushing it without meaning to, while she punches so hard that my knee socks tremble, cowering a few inches down my shins in the reverberation of this unbridled hate. My mother tells me she doesn't hate me. She wants to be me. But all I can think is she must want to be no one and nothing. For that's me. We're changing in the bathroom before a performance in front of the school. I've forgotten my new pink jelly, so I am positively clownish in matching Bahama Mama shorts and top, a schoolgirl navy wool socks with ghastly brown shoes, glasses with a surface area that take up half my face, a mane of untamed curls that I've come to hate but would later learn to love, a swirling, frizzy, dizzying explosion of hair the shape of water, the shape of my beautiful, wild heart crashing, all carried in the body of a little girl who just lacks the cruel instinct to fight back. Dead girl walking. 3 p.m. was the magic hour when the bus would release me like a carrier pigeon in pigtails and polyester back into the hands of those that shape me. And I would run like a lover from the bus stop up into the hills, into the arms of the lilac bush that stood as a secret doorway to the only Narnia I'd ever known. I'd close my eyes and drink in her nectar, coaxing my shoulders to come down from my ears, for I was home again. Lilacs always brought me home. He punches the drywall beside my head. I glance down at his fist, bright red, knowing that for weeks to come it will bruise into a Monet painting of violet, periwinkle, and blush, the gentle purple of an archway of lilac that once stood guardian over my home decades before. I glance down at his veins screaming beneath his skin. Again, they're the cold branches of a tree stripped bare. Again, how they remind me of how a naked lilac bush once looked when held against an October sky at twilight. How it made the ceiling of the earth look like a broken mirror. I think about it as I sweep up the shattered glass on the floor where he tore apart looking for vodka again. Sometimes my throat is still a book of matches and I can't seem to strike the flint. And sometimes my throat is a vase petal soft with blossoms cascading like waterfalls off my tongue. Still every night, whether petals or matches, I wake up choking on the litany of a lifetime of words left unsaid. In the elevator that day, I am rising. I'm rising, descending from an hour of freedom back into a lifetime of hell. I'm wondering if all that worship the almighty Phoenix have ever asked her if she's part cat, if she has 9 lives. Have they ever asked her how many times she's burned up over and over and over? Asked her how many times she can still patch together new wings to fly bloody and broken and beautiful from the ash back into the war zone of her chosen life. But why? Why has this creature chosen this life? I'm clutching the wall in the elevator when a woman standing next to me asks if I feel all right. I say, yeah, I'm fine. I know instantly it's a lie, but all I speak are lies. I'm transfixed by the fragrance of her, and I say, are you wearing perfume? And she says, yes, it's lilac. And all at once, the earth is inside out. The elevator is a womb of darkness, and I feel pressure pushing me into a new world, a kaleidoscope. I'm floating, not rising or falling in this moment. I can hear children laughing freely, fresh-cut grass and crickets, sticky summer skin, my sister's soft breathing. I can remember a time before I learned and adopted sorry as my first language. I can remember my native tongue of beauty, of wonder, of love. I can remember that it all began with loving myself. The elevator doors open. This is my floor, and I guess hers too. She gets off, but I do not. The doors open. The doors close. And I descend onto the street, her lilac still lingering in the air, and I pass through those elevator doors out into the double doors, into the month of November, the powerful month of November. No to that which tries to harm me. No to the cigarette and blindfold. No to the belief that I need not factor my happiness into the equation of my own life. No to the belief that I can pour from this cavernous desert dry cup. No to the belief that I can save him. No to the belief that it's my job. No to the belief that I deserve any of it. And I walk down the boardwalk onto the beach with absolutely no desire to look back. Not for the fear that the world I've left behind me is on fire, and not for the fear that if I look back, God might strike me into a pillar of salt. I don't look back because I don't need to. For I know the world I've left behind me is the pillar of salt. It could be crushed and blown away in one moment by the weight of the immense relief that I feel here and now, where with one decision I have built a new archway of lilac to walk through. I know it's I who's on fire, rising as a phoenix one last time. I am the wildfire raging with the desire to live again. Now watch me burn all this brush away. So I have one last song for you guys, and it was very important to me that I bookend the show with new music. So the first song I played was new, and this last song is new. And this song really is kind of an addendum to the poem. I really can't tell you how much it's meant for me to be here with all of you tonight. It's an interesting thing being a performer. I have this belief that every time a performer gives a show in a theater, that a sort of wedding takes place, like a renewal of vows, where the performer renews her commitment or her vow to what it is that she does or he does with their life. And you're sort of like the witnesses at the wedding. So I know that you came here to be entertained, but in a way I can't really explain. You've entertained me. And it's really been so amazing to be here after 6 years away from performing my original music. So thank you so much. I can't possibly thank you enough. This song, thank you. This song is called The Hunter, and it's my personal vow to myself to never lose my voice again. Thanks again.
The hunter of dreams. I feast on the raw flesh of what they said I couldn't achieve. The world is fearful. Beware the timid people. They try the best to keep the but you can find me hilltop, head cocked, howling away. Ah-ooh, 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 ah-ooh. I am the she-wolf with eyes wide and black, to seek out fellow doers, strengthen my wild pack. The world will try to tame you, and Lord knows I have been tamed. They took my voice from me once, but I stole it back away, and now I say what I have to say. Ah-ooh, 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 ah-ooh. So meet me now, meet me anytime you want. Just know I'm not afraid to fight. Down on all fours, I'll bear my razors in the night, my canines wet with fever in the light. I am the hunter of dreams. I feast on the raw flesh of what they said I'd never achieve. Beware the world of undead, whose darkness clouds the sky. They try their best to keep the full moon at bay, but you can find me hillside, head cocked, howling away. Ah, ooh, ah, ooh, ah, ooh, ooh, ah, ooh, ah, ooh, ah, 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 ooh, ah, 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 ooh, ah, ooh. Thank you so much. My name's Anj Granieri. Thanks for being here with me tonight. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening.